Yes.
Continue, please. Proceed.
Yes.
Thanks.
Mr. Witness. Welcome back, Mr. Drame.
Mr. Drame, Bismillah.
May I remind you that you're still under oath? Before the break, we were talking about the interrogation of the Farafenya attackers. And you told us you did not enter the room where the interrogations were taking place.
That is correct, sir.
And you returned to Farafenye that same day.
The
following day, right? And you had nothing else to do with those who were being interrogated at the NIA premises.
That is correct, sir. We returned. I did more than 2 weeks to 3 weeks in Farafenya involved in patrols and ordered until the mission was called off.
All right. So now let's proceed to deal with the other issue. In 2006, March, there was an alleged planned coup d'etat. And a number of people were arrested. And investigations took place at the NIA. On that day, March 21st, I believe it was. You had reason to go to the airport. Tell us why. And what happened?
When we converged at the counter-terrorism unit, that is all the directors of the then NIA. We were all given tasks. My task, having knowledge of weapons, I have to be at the point of embarkation because we received notice that the former president was coming.
President Koto member President Yalanung Abakan.
He arrived whilst I was at the airport. In the entourage, my former boss, the then Director General, Daba Marena, I collected him, put him in my vehicle, alongside his luggage. We drove out of the airport. And I asked him, where, sir? He said, home. After he changed his mind, I said, let's go to the counter-terrorism unit. Hence, all the directors have converged there.
Wairi director lube bentaje.
I will go and we do briefing and debriefings.
Nsitaje ngadia munga kulu bonyoto kanyokala mutandi kulu la meno bekering.
Upon arrival at the counter-terrorism unit,
rimfutata wo bunda la meno kanyin kijatela natambila la kono masata.
Where was that?
At Bijilo, sir.
Ube Bijilo.
He said,
Ako.
when I received the information that you people gave me
Bringa kibaro soto atel moli kibaro mendina
about an abortive coup or a planned coup,
wala ko ferole sitita meya lonka keta kudeta alti membaita.
I had wanted to know the situation of the State House.
Lefta lona la utumo kolbe tembeda amento State House.
I then confided in Tumbul Tambal.
Utumo londia mutatumbul tambaye kulokono.
I told him, can you find out at the State House?
Nkaye nyinko kisi State House bang.
So if I know the movement of soldiers and how things are going on there,
Ningalong soldiero lube ila kolu tani na la karola benyamin anin kolbe tembeda jumalto je.
I will then compare these informations
Bitungo lembeo kibaro lulandi la ngebe tame nge tenteng.
and then brief the president.
Sina kumaso mbe memfala president we.
Tumbul acknowledged receipt of that.
Tumbul sonta ko kibaro fota enne.
Whatever finding that was done by Tumbul,
Bari Tumbul nata ko kundi nje ko nyinkono.
he did not go back to Marena to brief him.
Amamuru kata marena ya pur kata kumulu fo marena ye.
Instead, he went straight to the president
Betong ate tententa wole nyama kata president ya.
and told him that there is a coup plot in the Gambia.
Kafayen ko kudeta fero lebe Gambia.
According to Mr. Marena,
Ko Mr. Marena ya fo nyamin.
the then president was so bitter,
Waketa president ye ni kuya ni kamfa bati.
he came out
Fundita nang.
and accosted Marena
Atata kuntu marena nyato.
that what is happening in the country and you cannot tell me.
Kafaye ko membe ke kambanko kangima fonye.
He said, but sir, I wanted to finalize an information
Akai sa lafta kibaro lubuntun na lenge kafunyo mahani fona ko itamma.
based on the intelligence sent to me.
Nga kulodin karingulu menu soto kanto ni tankadala karola menu futatamma.
As it was as a result of that,
Wadalilo le ya sabu.
I have tasked Tumbul to find that information.
Ngodo ko di tumbulu le la prae tao kibaro nyining.
The late Tumbul can be in a better position to give me that accurate information.
Tumbulu le moti mensi o kibaro koyo fono nteye walanna.
But unfortunately,
Bari kolu manna ke anyama.
his conscience was betrayed.
Bitung atelajiko ya lajiko tinya.
Tumbul did not report to Marena.
Tumbulu manna kau kibaro fo marena ye.
For whatever reason,
Dalila o dalila bakoma.
that was best known to him.
Ate tumbulu le olong.
He went straight and briefed the president.
Ate tata president le adoron kata kumulu
And
fo.
Marena told us in that briefing
Adu marena yo fontoli nao bendulato je.
that the then president was not happy with him.
Ko president be kamfari nga kammale katwa manse wo fereng.
He said, but
Ako bari
he had a clear conscience.
bari ate anganio seneata la miro seneata.
He wants to give the president the truth,
Lafta ka tonyale fo president we.
to give him facts
Ka kuolu be bonda e nyoto ka jaba kese woto.
and not assumptions.
Bari amalla fika kumolu faye mensi ke miral kuma kensengol ti ngunu kumolu.
We discuss other operational modalities,
Bitundi amuta kudolu fanalu lanya lu kenyala.
and then we disperse in each given task.
Bitum mbe janjanta onyale ye momondi sasi anyanta do ko menkela.
And I drove him back to his home.
Ntelengam abulandi motola ngasamba ala suokono.
From the information you had,
kabo kibaro la ete men soro
was Marena part of the planned coup, or was he not part of the planned?
marena fo adabe nyin kurita fere landin woto la bang fo adaman tarajeba.
Marena was never part of that coup d'etat.
Marena da nene mambula wo kudeta bayri ngokono.
Council, how can you be part of a coup d'etat and you know it has leaked and you are traveling Mauritania back to that country?
Council ila sitarano kudeta kono nyadile melnata wanyari abaita yena fok pare itabe tamasilo kai be murula nan kana sai
Marena was never part of that.
Marena da nene mambula wo kudeta kono.
Sir Jase went up to the border,
Tamziri jasi tara fon nane oto
delivered Nur Cham
ay nuru cham samba
at the border.
Na neoto.
And he returned.
Amuruntana.
So that is no basis for the conclusion that this man was not part of the coup.
O manke kuti me alon ko nyanda sabati la o misalo le kan kafo ko
Try another one.
nyinte ko nyindata ko
Tamsir did not do his mathematics well.
Tamsir mala kuolu continue kabo anyota kabo nyoto anyama.
Probably he thought Nurcham was the only person who knew.
Tumandodu aseke ateamira ko Nurcham drone kuolong.
The same thing could apply to Daba.
ko kilingo bel belana num daba fanan kan.
There was no part in any further investigation that were convened. There was no alleged plotter that mentioned the name of Daba Marena.
Precisely, that's the point, isn't it? Nobody mentioned
Not at all.
Daba to have been involved. Thank you very much. And what happened after that?
The following morning, we went to work. Councillor was one of his most trusted aides. He called me whilst I was at his veranda. On the whole, he was in his office with some soldiers. I think they were under the instruction to come and arrest Daba. When they came out, alongside with the soldier that was headed by Alaji Martin at the time, when he came out, he looked at me. Akodrame, mbe murulana inshallah.
I'll come back inshallah by the grace of Allah.
Marena went.
Marena tata.
And never came back.
Or you never saw him came?
He never came back.
And the NIA started investigating this coup d'etat via a panel.
NIL inatana damu ta puru kanyum coup d'etat bayri ngonyin ka damu ta ka kisi inatana panelo londi akwang.
That's correct, sir.
Were you still in the headquarters, working at headquarters when this panel was doing its work?
Hanin kabi tarta no do ko la no headquarters jebang tumala men ne nyim panelo nyin wara mata nyin kafo nyin londi men kay membe ko nyin kisi la.
I was going to work every day at the headquarters 8 to 4. Sometimes I would stay up to 6.
Luolundin kata do ko la headquarters kabutalan say fotalan nani tumodo lunkatara je fotala woro.
And from your observations, how was this panel doing its work?
Council, the hall where the panel was housed, it's a very close proximity to my office. It went to a stage. I sometimes avoid going to my office.
Why?
It's because of you cannot imagine. There are days you come, you find people paraded around my veranda. That is to say, the hall and my office share the same veranda. Seeing people that you know, they know you, you know them. And there were some degree of acquaintance between you and them. Seeing them in a very pathetic state.
Could you explain what you mean by that? Seeing them in a very pathetic state.
I'll first of all start. Ex-General Ibrahim Abba.
General Koto Ibrahim Abba.
I found him in shot. He was crying. I looked at him.
Nga jube.
After some time.
Tata fo wati.
Crying as a result of what?
I asked him, Muneketa.
I asked him, my elder, what has happened, Muneketa. He said to me, they beat me mercilessly.
I said, who?
Nani ninkajuma.
Ako the black.
Ako meni efemfunguludung.
I kept quiet.
Nande.
Because that time,
at Wotembo,
there was no single staff in that institution that was even safe.
Doku late o doku bunda la Wotembo me ya lonko fango tankata.
We were all afraid.
Ntelu bebe silandine.
Afraid of what?
Albe silare munna.
Even sometimes the person that you know that were among those arrested,
your
close association with this could be depicted or interpreted otherwise.
What were you afraid of?
Arrest, detention, possible beatings.
But beatings is a civilized way of describing torture.
Council, with due respect, give me something I will put in.
I'm just suggesting that beatings is a civilized way of calling torture.
In this case, I will take the latter of yours, torture.
You were afraid that what was happening to those people you saw right at the veranda of your office, you were afraid that the same fate would befall you.
That
is one side. Or there's this other side. Those doing the interrogations that had no idea about interrogation, they misconstrue the facts. A point in case, there was this fateful day, sometime between 2 a.m. to 3 a.m., all the directors of the NIA were summoned to the headquarters by the Director General.
Director lumenu bebe NIA bunda nyatonko luye be kumandi puriye beng doku dulato je NIA adun Director General doku bula kuntonko fangale kumandi kwena.
Was the Director General operating alone in that activity?
For Director General memu kordatio nyim faun nyatonko di for at damal be ko nyin tamandika ko nyin kono ba.
I suppose he was there with the panel members and other security heads at the time.
Ngamira ko ateningo panel mulu we mo tombo ndingulu meni katara nyinin karola ateningo lebije animo kotangulu meni alonko ye mabendije.
And were there any other officials who were not members of the security institution?
If
my memory serves me well, with the exception of us, those panel members, we saw people in black fatigues and which have balaclava covered faces.
Any civilians?
Those nights, none.
What? I beg your pardon?
The nights that we were summoned to come to the headquarters, there were none.
Any lawyers?
Loyal.
There were none.
Proceed, please.
And then?
We were summoned. We were all paraded into the conference hall. Then suddenly, the late Musa Jammeh
Tala Musa Jamme
entered
aduntanang
and pointed at Ngor Seka, Jibril Seka.
Ngor Seka chodi ka fama Jibril Seka.
He said, out.
Akoye finti.
And then Musa Diba.
Ani Musa Diba.
Out.
Ako fana ye finti.
The rest of you,
To malu menu bije.
you can go.
Ako wole alteliata.
That was too traumatic indeed.
Waketa kijate kuoti.
Why was it?
Mune osabu.
Ngor, out.
Ngor funti.
No explanation.
Dalila manfo.
Musa Diba, out.
Musa Diba funti.
No explanation.
Dalila manfo.
The rest of you go.
Atelu tolu men tutaje ali finta alieta.
Just for you to realize that
Andu sina lonko.
those colleagues who were asked out
Ila o kafunyolu men ko men ye finti.
have been arrested.
Ye mutale.
But that is how the NIA operated.
But NIA kila do kol tamandi wala nyama.
This was not the NIA at play at the time.
You
just happen to have been at the receiving end. But that is the normal way the NIA operated.
I disagree, sir. If a panel is constituted, the NIA might not have the leverage
But that panel was headed by Mamadou Haidara, who was the Deputy Director General at the time.
At this time, he was not yet Deputy Director General that I'm talking about.
Nonetheless, he was the head, he was the chairman of the panel. But that's the way the NIA operated. You would be working with A now, the next minute you arrest A and put him down. That is what obtained. Not only in the NIA, but also the police. But also the military. That was the modus operandi of the security forces. Is that not true, Mr. Witness?
That is correct.
Thank you very much. So, you had no reason to be surprised because of the arrest. Perhaps you may have been scared that you may be next. Is that not the case?
That wasn't the case.
Was that the only time you were summoned there?
There were second times.
That second time, did you get in?
In where?
The NIA, the panel setting where you were summoned?
No, we did not. I did not get there.
Why?
They needed something in my office.
And then?
Papers and stationaries.
And?
Why I was surprised was for what Ngor Seka was arrested for. Sir, up to 2006, it was very rare to hear that we were arresting each other. I would suggest, if we go back to books, those severe tortures occurred, started during the advent of the abortive 2006 coup.
But
I am not disputing that it has not happened there.
That is not the case. It used to happen before. Each time there was the rumor of a coup d'etat, people arrested were dealt with in the most gruesome manner. Do you agree?
in Banjul, broadcasting for viewers in the Gambia and around the world. This is weekday news at 1300 hours. Coming up, rising prices of some essential food commodities raise concerns among Gambians. Minister of Trade speaks to us in an interview. The talk of war between the Independent Electoral Commission and the Gambia Public Procurement Authority over the start of voter registration reaches the National Assembly. Grts investigates the rising use of a tobacco substance among some women for fulfilling sexual pleasure. But is this a healthy practice? Find out later in the news. And in sports, the Gambia's football chief is one step away from becoming a member of FIFA's decision-making body. We will tell how. And away from home, another kidnapping case in Nigeria as gunmen abduct 7 children from an orphanage in the capital, Abuja. Details of these and others coming ahead. I am Kadi Jatu Juara, and thanks for joining us. Welcome back. We begin with the Vice President, Dr. Trrc, on Tuesday presided over the launch of the report on the study of knowledge, attitudes and practice towards COVID-19 in the Gambia at the Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara International Conference Center in Bijilo. The objective of the study is meant to reinforce and complement efforts of the Gambia government by providing data for tailored interventions in the fight against COVID-19 and for use as reference material in future pandemics. Yoro Jalo has more in this report.
The launching ceremony was presided over by the Vice President, Dr. Trrc. In her opening statement, Dr. Trrc spoke at length on the significance of the report, noting that it has evaluated people's knowledge about COVID-19, their attitudes towards the disease, and some of the best practices during the pandemic. Dr. Trrc further stated that the study also looked at the effectiveness of the state of public health regulations in curbing the spread of the virus.
As chair of the National COVID-19 Committee, my office through the National Population Commission Secretariat, in partnership with the Gambia Bureau of Statistics, University of the Gambia and AT&T Consulting Services, conducted the first ever nationwide study on knowledge, attitudes and practices of people towards COVID-19 in the Gambia. Globally, KAP studies are a widely used method of measuring people's knowledge, attitudes and practices during the epidemics with the aim of establishing if there are knowledge gaps within a population and getting more data for evidence-based interventions.
She used the opportunity to challenge all ministries and government departments to harmonize the report as the fight against COVID-19 continues. The Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmad Lamin Samate, dilated on the importance of the report, which brought together critical stakeholders in the realms of research and development in the country to assess people's knowledge and attitude in their practices towards the deadly virus.
With the H1N1 viruses in the past and other epidemics, the developing countries were left out in the sense that the well-to-do countries, the influential rich countries with all the resources bought all the vaccines. Now the WHO and partners said, no, we need to do something for the developing countries, and they came up with this COVAX facility that guarantees the availability of vaccines for countries like the Gambia.
Dr. Samate urged the people to adhere to the Ministry of Health and WHO recommendations and guidelines. For her part, the Minister of Gender, Children and Social Welfare, Fatou Sanyang Kinte, revealed that globally women experience a significant burden on their time and caregiving responsibilities as families are compelled to stay at home during COVID-19 lockdown, thus exposing them to gender-based violence, among other things.
Experiences from previous pandemics showed that women and girls are active actors for change, and they experience the effects of the crisis in different and often more negative ways. Given that COVID-19 does not discriminate, the response to it should not also be discriminatory.
The WHO country representative in the Gambia, Dr. Nestor Trrc, has sought his organization's continued support and cooperation in the fight against the global pandemic. The vote of thanks was delivered by Nyakasi Sanyang of GIVOS. The ceremony was attended by cabinet ministers, senior government officials, and a host of other dignitaries. For GRTS News, this is Yero Jalo reporting.
As concerns mount over rising prices of goods, mainly food items, in the local market, GRTS has been investigating the cause. Ibrahim Jallo visited some marketplaces where he engaged both vendors and customers about the soaring prices, and he prepares this report.
It's another business day in the metropolis and surroundings. Commercial activities are in full swing despite an unusual economic situation due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, prices of basic food items, including rice, Gambia's staple food, are said to be in the rise. Consumers are feeling the pressure, calling for urgent intervention by relevant authorities. This is the Serekunda market, the biggest and by far the most populous market in the Kanifi municipality. Buyers and sellers have expressed their concerns or their views surrounding the rising prices of food commodities in this country. Some put the blame on the government, but for some, it is the businessmen themselves to be blamed.
If the food prices are high and earning power is low, how do you expect the single parent to survive? How do you expect those who are not earning to that way to put food on the plate? And we have to understand that there are other people that are paying rent.
People complain, but I think it is the same everywhere in the world due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
The goods are expensive. It is difficult for people, especially the poor. The government should help.
Alpha Jallo runs a food commodity shop in the busy Serekunda market. Jallo admitted that prices have gone up, but according to him, the cost emanated from importers and wholesalers, forcing retailers to increase accordingly. It is true that the goods are expensive. Customers do complain about it, but it is not our fault. It depends on the price we also buy from the wholesalers. Geneva Maria is a petty trader. She said the price increment is worrisome for household heads, while pleading for government's intervention.
The prices keep rising by the day. That's difficult, especially for heads of families. In fact, now the cost of fish rose to $200. The government should introduce price control to avoid malpractices.
Concerned Gambians urge government to put up an effective control mechanism to address the issue. Meanwhile, the National Assembly Select Committee on Trade has begun a fact-finding mission on trade and related matters and will make intelligent recommendations to that effect. Ibrahim Jallo, GRTS News.
The Ministry of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment has earlier today issued a press release to this effect, in which the ministry said through its regular monitoring of the stock and price levels of essential food commodities has observed that the prices of some of the essential commodities have generally increased. These prices are for the wholesale market. These increments were caused by both the exogenous and some local factors. And for a better and more clarity on these, the Trade Minister, Honorable Sidi Keita, spoke to Aissatou Keita. Let's take a listen.
Mr. Keita, and welcome to GRTS.
Good evening, Madam
Okay.
Now, as you are aware that prices of some goods continue to skyrocket, as just indicated in your press release, what do you think is responsible for this?
Thank you very much. As we have indicated in our press release, these price increases are a combination of factors. Predominantly, the international market for international prices for these commodities have increased, and this increase is what the wholesale importers are passing on, and subsequently the increases are now passed to the retailers, ultimately to the consumer. If you look at the causes of the international price mechanism, the lockdown caused by the COVID-19 disrupted the supply chain. Oil prices have increased, shipping container prices have increased, the cost of freight have increased. So in a nutshell, this disruption created some imbalances to the supply chain, and as a result of the short supply, the prices of these essential commodities have increased.
Now, what are some of the measures taken by your ministry to address this particular situation at hand?
Yes, the ministry has been engaged, and we involve all the stakeholders, from the importers to the relevant government agencies, the shipping companies, the clearing and forwarding agents, to understand the domestic element of the increase. Some of the increases were emanating from home, and this comprised about 20% of the overall increase. And what the ministry is doing is involve the key players, understand the causes, the root causes of this increase. Therefore, after all of this consultation, we will come up with a proposal as to how to ameliorate or reduce the increase in these prices. As you know, these prices are import-driven from the external market, over which the government has very limited control. But what the government can do is the internal factors that are within our capabilities, we can look into those. But given that they only comprise only 20% of the increase, there is very limited assurance that we can say that these price increases can be stopped altogether.
Now, we know that the Gambia has a free market economic system, but also a developing country. What mechanisms are in place to ensure the people, ordinary Gambians to be precise, are not exploited?
Yes, this is the key concern of the ministry. We monitor prices regularly. We follow what happens in the market. We do a weekly survey of the consumer prices, both at the wholesale and retail, and we are making sure that the price increases are not due to unexplained factors and are within reasonable limits. So as a ministry, we are engaging across the supply chain, all the players, to ensure that undue price increases are not passed to the consumers.
So is there any effort by government at this point in time to invest in national food enterprise in order to help in the price reduction?
Well, as you know, we are a private sector-led government, and private sector-driven economy. And in a private sector, the role of government is to create an enabling environment where the private sector can flourish and participate. For government direct involvement in the commodity business, this is not the order of the day given the new economic paradigm. What the government can do and will do is to encourage more players in the supply side of the commodities, so that we have adequate players in the supply side, so that there are enough suppliers to bring the market forces to play. Currently, the number of players in the commodity business are very few, and we believe we are encouraging all Gambians to participate in those particularly big businesses who can invest in this sector, so that market forces will be in full, will be rolled out to the benefit of the Gambian consumers.
So now what assurance can you give to Gambians who are finding it difficult to afford 3 meals a day and due to high prices, and what else do you want to share with the public?
Well, the assurances we can give the Gambian is that the government has this agenda on its as a priority. We are looking at the constraint in the local end of the supply chain, particularly the increase in freight costs caused by the increase in demurrages. We are working with the Ports Authority. We are working with the shipping agencies to see what incentives can be done to waive out, where possible, the levies that are introduced as a result of the increase in the shipping cost. Okay. The GPA has increased, has actually contracted a demurrage company to do the dredging. We believe that will increase the capacity of the port. With that, the congestion will be reduced, so that the demurrage and other ancillary charges will be removed or reduced significantly.
So away from the issue of price in the market, Honorable Minister, in one of the meetings, precisely in Jarasoma, during the recently concluded Meet the People tour, we revealed plans by the government to include economic zones across the country. Can you tell us about these special economic zones and how far with the process?
Well, as we have announced at our meeting in Soma, these the economic zones used to predominantly exist in the urban centers, and now the rural area, such as the LRR, has the infrastructure in terms of the power, the road network, with the construction of the Senegambia crossing. That has even made that region very vibrant, and as such we deem it very necessary in collaboration with our agency GAIPA to move some of these industries into the provinces, so that the economic activity can be spurred by these special economic zones. Already we are in consultation with the community, the local government authorities there, to provide the land and the necessary infrastructure for this economic, special economic zones to kickstart. Also, we have even started taking some potential investors to site, to visit the site, so that they can look at it as part of their possible investment in the country. We believe this will spur growth in this area, create employment, and reduce the congestion on the urban areas.
All right, Honorable.
Moving on the cancellation of the start of voter registration for the 2021-2023 electoral cycle has prompted a heated debate in the country. The Independent Electoral Commission and the Gambia Public Procurement Authority appeared before the National Assembly Select Committee on Election Matters to explain to the lawmakers the deadlock between the two institutions with a view to find a solution. Aminata E. Sanyang tells us more.
The Select Committee on Regional Government and Lands, Ombudsman and IEC summoned the IEC and GPPA to table the logistics surrounding the postponement of the voter registration to what many believed is a feud that exists between the IEC PA as a result of the national and international bidding competition of 2021 voter registration materials and equipment procurement has resulted to questions and comments from citizens and concerned stakeholders. Bringing all parties involved to table issues, this also required the presence of the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice, Dauda A., who was once delegated at the executive level to intercede.
My involvement as Attorney General was mentioned because I participated in one meeting where we tried, as executive, IEC had mentioned the route to the President, asking for his intervention to diffuse the stalemate between them and the GPPA. It was on this basis that the President assigned the Secretary General and myself to invite the parties and listen to the issues and try to see whether we can facilitate some form of consensus between them. Clearly, we listened to both of them. In that meeting, I made comments, and my comments have been captured by IEC, although I didn't know that minutes will emerge out of that. But minutes were taken by the Office of the President. Yes, when I looked at the issues, I listened to both sides. My position still remains the same. It is my ministry's position that IEC is independent, but Section 42 of the Constitution states that they are part of the public service, and if they are administering public funds, I think they should comply with the rules of applying public funds. This includes procurement.
The chair of the committee, Musa Amunyasi, delved into what is expected from both institutions and reminded them that all is geared towards national interests.
This dialogue is meant for us to reach a common position and take a common position in the interest of ensuring that the election calendar is implemented to the letter. We all know that both institutions have a stake, that is GPPA and the IEC. So I urge both of you, please, in reacting to the questions or comments or observations that are coming from members, honorable members for that matter, take time to give it a polite and decent reaction. Otherwise, if you want to be sentimental, it's going to deviate or it's going to defeat the purpose for which we are here.
Highlighting the independence of the IEC and its capacity to conduct free and fair election for years, the chairman of the IEC, Aliu Momar Njai, implored Parliament to empower the IEC.
We exist because of elections. Without election, we will not exist. The IEC proper. And key amongst the IEC's role is to conduct elections. And the most important part of an election is to be able to vote. And for us, we pride ourselves, and even when I travel abroad, I always tell the people outside that our election system is the most transparent, most accurate, and most credible throughout the world.
After giving a detailed information that transpired between the IEC and the GPPA and the processes the IEC have engrossed to roll out the bidding for companies and the involvement of the GPPA, CEO of the IEC, Sambunjang Jai, categorically stated IEC's experience with GPPA.
The IEC is made of the Commission and the Secretariat. The Commission is the apex decision-making body. So whatever you want is doing it on and for the Commission. So even if the committee is headed by the chairman, and chairman happens to be the head of the commission, of that committee, he still have to report to the entire commission. This committee, that's the contract committee, reported to the IEC commission that after evaluation, this is their observation and recommendation, which is ESI was found substantially responsive to the criteria. And this is the recommendation of the contracts committee to the commission. And the commission accepted and withheld this decision and instructed the contracts committee to communicate the decision or the recommendation of the IEC to the GPPA for approval.
On his part, the GPPA Director General Salim Malang dilated on what GPPA requested from the IEC, and he said that GPPA was operating according to the principles.
GPPA is not holding the country at ransom, but we are simply executing what we entrust us to carry on. We have our Bible, our Act and our regulation. And anything that we feel did not go down with the Act and regulation, we have a duty to point it out. How it is taken later, that's above us. And that's all we are doing. And the GPPA is not saying there will be no election. No, because there have been elections without GPPA anyway, we go to GPPA. But it's important also that we point it out. And I will take on what my good brother has said here. The objective is to make sure that they save the face of the country. We have the same objective. That is why this thing is coming into play. And later, if you go into the technicalities, if you want to go into technicalities, you will see why, you know, we want to go by with that opinion to save the face of the country.
Committee members took turns to seek clarifications from both parties and make comments. After a thorough scrutiny, the Select Committee will come up with a recommendation to help further resolve the issue. Aminata Sanyang, Grts.
Still on Assembly matters, the Public Enterprise Committee of the National Assembly on Tuesday continued its business of scrutinizing reports of public institutions at the Legislative House in Banjul, the latest government institution to come face to face with the oversight body is the Assets Management and Recovery Corporation, AMRC. Samuel Ba reports.
And Recovery Corporation responded to the invitation of the Public Enterprise Committee to present their audited activity report and financial statements for the year 2019. Established in 1992, AMRC has the core mandate of debt recovery and managing and administration of government assets. According to the Managing Director of the corporation, AMRC will continue to make all necessary efforts to ensure that recovery is maximized.
The corporation, since its establishment in 1992, has recovered about 80% of the entire Gambia Commercial and Development Bank portfolio to the tune of about 266 million from the various accounts, that is the commercial loans, development funds, and managed funds accounts.
MD Sane said among the many challenges they are faced with is the fact that a good number of loans have no collateral security, making recovery very difficult. Ami Tunkara is the corporation's finance director.
Total assets for the period ended 31st December 2019 stood at $286,313,729 in 2019, compared to the sum of $326,063,915 in 2018.
The auditor's opinion is that the reports present a true and fair view of the corporation.
We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. As stated in Note 18 of the financial statements on the finance lease between NABEC and AMRC, there has been a deviation from the accounting treatment with regard to finance leases IAS 17.
However, procurement officials did not turn up to give their opinion on the corporation's compliance with procurement regulations.
Board, our objective is to thoroughly review the activity report and financial statement for the year ended 31st December 2019 so that we present a report that will be fit for purpose.
The reports of AMRC will be considered at the adjournment meeting tomorrow Wednesday at 11 a.m. Samuel Bah, GRTS.
The Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, the Gambia Secretariat, and the Department of Physical Planning and Housing is embarking on a study of the 40-meter road reserved on both sides of the Baton-Haden Highway. The study tour is aimed at making a detailed inventory of all existing structures within the 40-meter road reserved. Sekou Jany of the Department of Physical Planning shed more light on the exercise with our news desk.
Welcome to GRTS News, Mr. Jany.
Thank you for having us.
Now, tell us more about this very important exercise.
Well, this is a survey of the 40 meters road reserve starting from Airport Junction all the way to Sting Corner. Basically what we are doing, we just want to take stock of all the developments that are within the 40 meters road reserve, document it and get an inventory of it so that the engineers that are coming to do the construction of the road can start their work in earnest.
So when are you set to do this important exercise?
We've already started.
Okay.
And it's kind of like a repeat of it because we did it before, I think in 2017, 2018.
Okay.
So we're just doing it again to make sure everything that's within the 40 meters is covered because there are a couple of new developments that came up when we first did the previous one. So we're going back to make sure that everything that's within the 40 meters is invented and we know exactly what's in there.
Okay, so what do you expect from land and properties or property owners along the Baton-Haden Highway stretch?
We definitely expect them to cooperate with us because this is a national development and we're doing it on behalf of the nation. So they should definitely cooperate, and we would also want them to either be present when we actually go on their areas or have a representative present, because what we want to do when we get there, we physically want to measure the 40 meters and show them exactly how their properties are affected. So it would be very important for them to be there or have a representative to be present when we do the exercise.
Okay. So what is next after this exercise? Do we expect to see a demolition if that is even a requirement?
Well, the demolition might come after this. But at this point, we just want to take inventory of what is there. Then, based on the design of the road, when the engineers come to actually start the construction, that would determine what needs to go. But basically, we just want to make sure that the 40 meters is taken care of, that all people that are within that are affected are notified. That way they know their status before the engineers come over.
But a demolition is a possibility?
It's very, very possible.
Okay. Now, finally, how critical is this exercise in the overall plans for the successful staging of the OIC?
This is probably the most important aspect of the whole thing. Because if we don't do this, it means the engineers wouldn't be able to start.
Okay.
And as we can see, we are already running out of time. So we definitely want people to cooperate with our people when they come to the site to help them do the job as quickly as we can, so that the engineers can get to work and get things started. And what we would also want people to understand is whoever is affected can come to the office. There is a unit called the Development Control Unit.
Okay.
They can bring their documents
under
over.
Your department?
At our department,
Okay.
Department of Physical Planning. There is a unit called the Development Control Unit. So whoever is affected obviously will be notified when the technicians go on site.
Okay.
But those people can equally come to the office and bring any documents that they have pertaining to that area of the 40 meters.
Okay, Mr. Sekujan, thank you so much for that.
Now, the use of tobacco by women for fulfilling sexual pleasure has become a phenomenon practiced by many women in the Senegambian region. However, health expert has warned against the practice that rebranded many marriage settings from any angle one considers that practice. The use of the tobacco substance by women is on the increase, as Janke Toure finds out in this report.
Vaginal tobacco, locally known as taba or simankola, is a substance that stimulates sexual satisfaction for women. According to those who adopt the new method, described taba as a blessing in disguise, thus increasing their sexual libido during intercourse with their male, and as well as shrink genitals and address infertility. Sexual desire and satisfaction is becoming a great concern among partners. Many are now investing into desperate measures to fulfill their desires. The product is made from dried tobacco leaves and the roots of a tree called tangora. Some manufacturers add soda and shea butter. After purchasing the substance from the market, it is inserted in the genitals. Many of the women who have used the product say the effects include burning sensation, severe dizziness, vomiting, and even loss of consciousness. And to some users, it is practically impossible to stay away from it. The first day that I used taba, I felt dizzy, wanted to vomit. Due to that, I fall. Once you are used to it, you cannot leave it. The practice is now popular in West Africa, where tobacco is often referred to as the miracle recipe, which send your man to seventh heaven during intercourse with partners. However, doctors have warned against the practice, which potentially lead to complications, including urinary tract infections, yeast infections, or bacterial vaginosis.
I think that's a misconception. That's the belief that it helped them to satisfy their sexual desire. Some will say also it helped them in fertility. Some will also say it helped them to ease their labor. But these are all misconceptions. Because these are chemicals. It has all effect on the health of women. If you look at it, we have a record of a woman who used to help them in labor. In fact, it precipitated the labor because of the chemical it contained.
Since there is no scientific evidence to prove the effectiveness of the tobacco product, Mothers Health Foundation, a civil society organization, is intensifying their efforts to discourage women from the harmful practice. Grts is the founder of Mothers Health Foundation. She described the practice as suicidal.
100% of our victims said it's suicidal. We have victims who testify that they had premature birth. You resort in using tobacco. We have pictures, we have the evidences of what tobacco is causing. The laws need to be revisited. National Assembly needs to come up and look at the laws in place.
Contrary to claims that tobacco cures infertility, specialists in herbal medicine say tobacco is never a cure to infertility. We spoke to some women about the practice, while some men, whose life too is at risk, advise against the use of tobacco.
It's important we listen to healthcare workers, experts, to make sure that we battle things that are affecting our lives, that we think they are enjoyable to our life, but they are not. They are definitely putting our life backward.
Tobacco is described as a gynecological troublemaker that kills the vagina microbiota. It is strange that with the negative effects of tobacco among users, dealers and the source of the product is kept a secret. Authorities are campaigning against this harmful practice, but are there legislations to address such emerging health risks? For the news, I am Trrc.
The Gambia Ports Authority recently contracted Sino Majilak Jalbak, a Gambian-owned investment company, who has begun dredging sand at the port's landing site with the aim of reducing the sand from deep sea. Zainabu Janya witnessed the ongoing works. See files in this report.
Safe landing for the incoming ships and ferries into the Gambia's harbour is in line with the GPA's daily operations. With this backdrop, the Sino Majilak Jalbak, a Gambian company, is set to dredge the sea to maintain adequate water level and depth. The captain and harbour master Kule Mane explains the motives behind the GPA's timely intervention.
Import ships cost money, and the efficiency of a port is determined by the rate at which ships come in and go out. That is the ship's turnaround time. So to improve on that, you need to continuously improve on your services. See, right now, if we do, the intention is to increase the available depth. We are dredging 5 berths, three berths for commercial vessels, 1 for small crafts and the ferries, as well as the ferry terminal. So if we dredge these 3 berths, it will increase the capacity of the port to accommodate commercial vessels by 40%.
The biannual dredging takes place smoothly with the help of dredging machines and vessels. Proprietor and partner of Sino Majilak Jalbak Company, Omar Jang, dilated further on the significance of their services.
The motivation of Sino Majilak Jalbak is to make a difference in Gambia. I personally, my whole motivation has always been to be able to come and do something and make a difference in my country. I'm Gambian, Gambia is my country. However, if you have been away for so long, it's fraught with, you need to convince people of your capabilities to do a good job. And I will thank the Gambia Ports Authority for the trust. I will thank the Gambia Ports Authority for the challenges they presented to us before they choose us. And it's all some things very good, some real good tests they've put us through that will stand Sino Majilak in good stead going forward.
Media personnel joined the officials of GPA and Sino Majilak Jalbak Company as they embarked on site visits to various landing sites in order to get first-hand information on the whole process.
You guys have seen the dredger. The dredger is the boat that does the dredging itself. And you've seen some pipe work up to here. This is called the landing site. So whatever it dredges there, dredging means digging the bottom of the water, taking out sediment and sand. Whatever it dredges here, it comes and throw it out here, depending on the product you're dealing with. So here we're dealing with mud. So normally with mud, what you do, you sort of enclose it. You build a tank. When you have the mud in there, you fill it up. When you fill it up with the tank, then you let it settle down. So when you're dealing with mud, this is what you do. If you don't have a place to throw it away, you build a tank. When you build a tank, you pump in the mud, you pump out the mud. You know, the whole process of dredging is removing sediment from the bottom of water. So you build a tank, you pump it out to the tank, you close the tank, let all your mud settle at the bottom. Mud normally is heavier than water, so it goes to the bottom. When it goes to the bottom, you have valves with it. So the valves release the water. The water returns back to the water body.
Public Relations Officer of SMJ, Bankamane, briefed the media on future projects by the Gambian company.
Good news is, this is just like I said, the beginning. We are going to be doing sand mining also. Sand dredging, let me use the word sand dredging, because there is the phrase sand mining has become a little disturbing for everybody, for good reason. And that is the Combo Coast, if you all are following, has been totally eviscerated, totally destroyed by sand mining and sand miners, bad actors. What we are going to do is, once we are finished with this place, we're going to be doing sand dredging. And that sand is going to be coming from the sea, so that we can mitigate the damage that is being done to our coast. So again, we are very, very excited about these efforts. There is a lot much more in the pipeline. We'll be sure to do our job professionally and ethically, socially, I would say in a socially just fashion, in an economically viable way, and above all, in an environmentally safe process.
The project is expected to take 4 weeks to complete. The Gambian company will move to sand dredging to remove sandbanks that disrupt the navigation of vessels. Zainabu Jain for GRTS News.
And now to the press release from the Ministry of Transport, Works and Infrastructure, which is hereby inviting all owners of driving schools in the country to a general meeting on Friday, 5th February 2021 at the conference room of the said ministry at 3 p.m. The purpose of the meeting is to discuss transportation and road safety issues in the country. All registered and functioning driving schools are therefore invited and encouraged to bring along their business registration details. And the Ministry of Health says there are confirmed positive COVID-19 cases who are currently at large and interacting with the public. In a media statement, the ministry says out of a total positive confirmed cases between 28th January to 25th January 2021, there are 40 confirmed positive cases that have refused isolation or have absconded treatment centers. Equally, the management is also aware that there are a large number of travelers who recently arrived in the Gambia from hotspot countries that have refused to abide by official protocols and or report to the health authorities for a mandatory test. The ministry says this press release is to inform the public that there are persons deliberately posing a great public health risk to the population by their respective decisions to either evade COVID-19 health officials for either transfer to isolation center or testing upon arrival from hotspot countries. 2. Abscond the designated isolation center. 3. Refuse to accept their confirmed positive results. And or 4. Refuse to comply with Ministry of Health case management policy and guidelines upon notification of their positive coronavirus status. Furthermore, several efforts have been made in the past month by the Ministry of Health's COVID-19 response team to reach and or convince the above-mentioned individuals to voluntarily apply. However, all efforts have turned out unsuccessful. The ministry continues to treat their matters with utmost and grave concern, and thus the ministry is hereby giving an order and challenge to all those concerned that they are required to report themselves to the health authorities with immediate effect, and failure of which will lead to serious consequences, including the publication of names and identification information of all those at large. Therefore, all positive cases should self-report by calling the following numbers: 1025 3011261 3632098, and those travelers who entered the country and are yet to undergo sample collection must immediately report to Metsi Hotel or call the aforementioned numbers for further clarification. The ministry would like to stress that this serious misconduct will no longer be condoned under any circumstances. Anyone found not willing to cooperate with COVID-19 regulations will have their names and identifying information published in the media, and thereafter drastic measures will be taken against anyone that is non-compliant. The public is hereby reminded that the Public Health Emergency Act, Dangerous Infectious Disease Protection Regulations 2020 empowers the ministry and officers acting under his authority to take strict measures as to when and where necessary. We urge the public to become more cautious and adhere to the advised safety precautions, especially that with regard to social distancing, wearing a face mask in public and avoiding large gatherings. We now go with a short break. When we return, the news continues. Welcome back. Before we end this newscast, a recap of our top stories. Rising prices of some essential food commodities has raised concerns among Gambian ministers of trade. Honorable C.D. Keita explained the reasons for the recent spike in prices. The talk of war between the Independent Electoral Commission and the Gambia Public Procurement Authority over the start of voter registration has reached the National Assembly. Grts has been investigating the rising use of a tobacco substance among some women for fulfilling sexual pleasure. And away from home, another kidnapping case in Nigeria has gunmen abducted 7 children from the orphanage in the capital, Abuja. That was all in this edition of Weekday News. Thanks for joining us and have a pleasant day ahead.
No, Amake.
Neither did I.
Obviously,
this made it a policy.
The
institution, because it was sanctioned and carried out in the presence with the acquiescence of the top directors.
I will
agree on this instance, which I was. So these people were all beaten by you. And they were stripped naked. You said you did not strip them naked. Honestly speaking, do you believe that legally speaking, you have responsibility for their humiliation at that time?
I agreed.
You are guilty of their humiliation. The evidence we have received suggested that they did not only receive simple slaps and kicks from you. They were beaten mercilessly by the others. True or false?
I would tell you, can I tell you something, sir?
Yes.
I haven't done what I did. I moved to my office. What might have transpired there, I did not witness that. Yes, sir.
Did you see torture written all over their bodies like you saw in 2006?
When I left, I did not go back into the hall.
Be careful. Don't bind yourself in an untenable situation. This is the third warning. You went back there.
Back to the hall?
Yes.
No, I did not go back.
Well, we would come back to that. Just avoid an embarrassing situation. So, when you left, it means, or does it mean that was the end of your direct interaction with this investigative session?
There was another instance.
Yes, tell us about it.
Babu Cham was brought. He was undressed. When I came out, it was not in the conference hall.
Where was it?
In front of my office, the veranda.
Mr. Witness, I'm sure you heard of Babu Cham's testimony. And that is why you quickly recalibrated. Okay, but the fact of the matter is, Babu Cham said he came with those who arrested him. So, and others. He arrived at a time when these guys were being tortured. And he in fact saw Alaji Moore carrying this this instrument of torture, either a cane or whatever it was. That was being used to whip these people.
That was his testimony, sir.
That's his testimony.
And
he said you were seated there.
That is not true. In fact, in front of my office, the veranda, that is where he was dealt with.
But Mr. Witness, I had a conversation with you before. And you told me that you were all seated there when he came.
When I came out from my office, I was, sir, it was not in the conference hall where we were seated. Babu Cham was not dealt with those people in the same place.
Are you suggesting that Babu Cham did not know what happened to him?
I am not disputing that. I said he was undressed. In my presence, when I came out, I saw him.
Well, Babu Cham told the commission that he was brought inside the conference room, where you people were seated. And he mentioned those who were sitting there. And he mentioned you being there.
So that is not correct.
He also mentioned Alaji Moore being there. And he indicated that these people were being beaten as they arrived.
It is not true.
Mr. Chair, it's 10 to 2. Perhaps we should just take the break now, the lunch break, and we come back after 1 hour.
Can I conclude this area before we go, please, sir?
Let us take the break. We'll give you time to think about this. And be careful the answers that you give. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council, and thank you, Mr. Drame. We will resume at 3 o'clock. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Are you giving us 1 hour, 10 minutes?
Yes, that's
all right. Thank you.
They want to call this slow by 5 minutes.
All right. It's 5 to. All right. Thank you.